an eye on the weight room just in case anybody else trickles in. But yeah, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I was going through and approving positions and employers and all of that good stuff. And we have a policy here at UNCW where if we're approving an employer, we do look for a company address, a website, the email domains match. I'm sure you guys do a lot of the same vetting processes. But we had it come up where an employer, really the only thing they were lacking was a physical address, but the person was an alumni, it was a legit business, they had a handful of employees, everything else checked out otherwise. And normally in the past, we still would have declined them unless they're in like a co-working space or something like that. But I just wanted to ask the group, with the focus being so much on remote work and remote opportunities and a COVID world, is anybody reconsidering that sort of thing? Obviously, making sure that the employer would have to be really heavily vetted to make sure it was a legit company, but is anybody rethinking that policy during COVID?
Hey, Dana, I don't know if you're still on. I don't even know, like, what are Caroline and Mallory looking at? Are they looking at a physical address? I don't think they've ever done that, have they?
Actually, no, they are. I've been approving employers and with Wake for, I guess, the last few weeks. And that's one of the things that we look for. If somebody doesn't have a physical address, typically we decline the employer. And I've seen a few times where the employers will be flagged if they go a little bit deeper and they actually Google the address. If the employer is flagged and it's like a residence, somebody will flag it, and typically they'll probably also to be declined.
I would say at Elon, I had a similar but different situation just today. I'm often approving employers because I get sick of seeing them build up in simplicity. So I'm in there, like, who are the new people? Today, there was an alum in there with a school system in Texas, and it was her Gmail, and the website was legit, but I couldn't find the alumni who listed herself as a teacher. I couldn't find her on the school system website. So I just had a moment of, this seems like something is off. So the approach that I took was I emailed her directly to the Gmail that she included and just said, I work on the corporate and employer relations team. We love hearing from alumni, which is your situation, Emily. It sounds like it's an alum. We love hearing from alumni. I just wanted to follow up on your employer profile in the Elon Job Network. Are you an active teacher at the school? Do you anticipate that your school system will be hiring? I know that things are up in the air. So that was kind of my inroad in. So I think my recommendation for you would be, because things are all remote right now, you could reach out to the alum and send that personal message to say, thank you so much for your interest in our students. We really value alumni that reach back out to hire more grads. Can you shed some light on is this going to be fully remote? Are your opportunities, where will they be located? Something like that if you are concerned. So I wouldn't be so quick to decline. Personally, if it's an alumni, I would take that extra step and reach out to get some more information.
Yeah, and the good thing is that, she gave me a little bit of info, and they are remote positions, but I guess typically the issue we're running into is if it was a regular company that had a physical address and they weren't necessarily onboarding new hires or interns in person right now, that would be fine. We would still approve them and approve anything they're posting. But typically, if the company has like a residential address or doesn't list an address, we worry that they'll onboard people by like bringing them to their house and saying like, oh, I'll train you, come here, that sort of thing. But at the same time, everything is remote, and people, there are companies that aren't going to have brick and mortar locations. So yeah, I was just kind of wondering, just thinking about that. And I guess you're right. It could be on a case-by-case basis. Like, if we know it's an alumni, if we can figure out what it is they're hiring for, and maybe it doesn't have to be policy, maybe it can just be we kind of take it by case. That could be really helpful. Great, well, thanks everyone.
We actually added a question to our simplicity where it's remote, yes or no. Or is this for a remote position? Yes or no? So students can even search. And our College of Management asked us to do that because so many people will be searching, by that. But we do it the same way, case by case, because, I'm more likely if they're hiring full time and they don't have a physical location, but if they're hiring interns, but it takes so much time because you have to have a conversation and reach out to them and find out. But, our policy is if they don't have a physical location, that is not a home address. We Google every address, but then we don't approve them or personal email addresses, but we do ask before we just reject them. But
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Emily, you're welcome to look on UNC Charlotte's pages as well, but this is before my time too, but the employer relations crew created an opportunity for those types of positions where they didn't have a physical address. They'd still let them offer what they called virtual internships. If Holly Brantley's on the call, she can weigh in and tell you a little bit more specifically about that because she handles that on a frontline basis.
And sorry, you said that was on the UNC Charlotte website, or did you say that was?
It's under the employer policies. I'll see if I can find you a direct link and send it to you offline. But if I don't know if Holly's on the call or not, but that's something that we've found to be able to do. So they basically what they can do is if they're going to offer a remote work position, they basically say this position is not going to have anybody at my home. And it's going to be virtual, and then it's tagged as such in the system and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
We haven't. Yes, I'll send that to you offline.
And is that something they sign? Is that something they're saying like we won't do any training, or is that just something like these are our requirements if you do a virtual internship?
It's more these are our requirements if you want to do this, and then if they say yes to it, then we tag their stuff as virtual.
We mark it in their account. We have it listed as right after the employer or the organization, we end up having in capital letters virtual employers. Right after the contact, we have it listed in capital letters in parentheses, virtual employer. So whenever they end up posting anything, we know that they're not supposed to post anything but a virtual internship.
Got it.
Thank you, Al.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So I had a question similar along those lines, and Holly's been in on some of these discussions with us too. We've had more than one group of local families that have decided to band together to sort of form their own homeschool consortium, but it's not anything super official. And then they want to try to create accounts in our system to hire education students to work either part-time as tutors or, to help facilitate some of the teaching and homeschooling that they're going to be doing with their students this upcoming fall. We're trying to kind of wrap our minds around what do we do with those and how do we approve them and all that. And I wanted to open it up to the group to see if any of you have encountered that and what you're doing with those.
I can only see that being a growing need. I've actually, through some of our church conversations, we've had some of our families saying, okay, how can we do this and work collaboratively? And actually some of our retired school teachers have actually volunteered to come forth and do that. So I think that's going to be an even increasing need. At Wake, we've also had at times parents, faculty, staff who wanted to hire nannies full time. So it ended up you almost had to create the family of John Smith, something, an account in our systems to do that. So I could definitely see this education piece as being a growing need.
Yeah, Dana.
I can, sorry, Beth. I think I was just going to echo what you were going to say. We are getting inundated at Meredith with these requests, emails blowing up, and I suspect that will continue to increase. Our education department has been contacted directly as well. We are fortunate, I think, Beth, I just saw you typed this in. We've got a mechanism at Meredith. Actually, our financial aid office on campus hosts a separate job posting site where we direct nannying, babysitting, tutoring anything kind of that falls into those lines, and those get posted there. And we are, I believe the messaging is coming from our education department to direct students who might have interest in that to check that site, because it is getting flooded right now. So.
We've only started posting nanny positions with actual like professional nanny organizations that end up vetting the employer that the different nannies would be going to the homes for. We will not approve an employer that it has a residential address, just for the safety of the students. We don't know who they are. We don't know who their neighbors are.
Beth, is that something that Elon created separately from your standard system, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with our office at all, but now that I'm looking into it more, I think you might have to have an Elon email address to post. But we've always directed people with those types of nannying, work at my sketchy place requests to the want ads. So now I'm just wondering if that's actually even the right place, because we're not going to post them. We also have kept a running list, I don't know where it lives at the moment, of part-time opportunities that our on-campus student employment staff member within our office, she manages and maintains that list. So if a student were to come to say, I don't have federal work study, but I'm looking for a part-time job off campus, she kind of has a go-to for that. So now that I'm not sure actually about our want ads.
And I'll say we do something similar at UNCW. We wouldn't post any of those types of positions. I usually direct them to our Ed Lab, which I'm sure, like you said, are getting tons of emails regarding the same thing right now. But we also advise them to use like Sitter City, or I think there's one called care.com. So I kind of give them a couple other options.
I'm with you though, Dana. I think this is going to become a bigger thing that's more common than some of the other stuff we've seen. So we're trying to find a creative way to work with it. We got the first one and we just referred them directly to our contacts in education and kind of let them go. But I don't want to just, shove that on down the line, because now I think we've got 2 or 3 sitting in pending right now. So yeah. All right, the next note in the agenda is from Wake Forest. So if one of our Wake Forest friends wants to take that.
Yeah, hi, I put that in there. We were recently having a staff meeting, and anecdotally we shared some information that, President Hatch really wants to see that the students have services this fall. If we're going to have them back on campus in some capacity, he doesn't want the OPCD door to be, permanently shut. So I was just curious as to, I think Beth, Elon had some office hours this summer. Can you talk a little bit about how that went? Was it utilized, or what are y'all planning for the fall? And then is there anybody else what are y'all's plans? How are you going to staff it and manage it and keep everybody safe?
At Elon, we have been staffed since May 11th. With the door essentially closed, but with the lights on, which was the differentiator, I guess. And no walk-in traffic this summer at all. There have been at least 1 or 2 instances where students did show up to the office because they thought that their appointment with a career advisor was in person. And so it was beneficial to have a staff member available to say, no, your appointment is virtual. We are not open for in-person appointments. So I can see how that's already helped us once or twice this summer over the past few months that we've been staffed with at least 1 person in our main office, but we have 2 to 3 a day at the moment, and we don't actually have direction yet on what August will look like, but through the end of this month, we have 2 to 3 staff members per day. My understanding at this point, though, is our classroom space, which is located in our main career center, will not be used for any classes, although the physical plant staff came in about 2 weeks ago and they measured and spaced our tables apart so that the space is ready to be used if needed, but we are not inviting classes to use our space as we normally would in non-COVID. As for appointments, I think part of the conversation has been if advisors are comfortable with meeting with students socially distant, that could be okay, but my understanding is our verbiage on our website is staying consistent that we will be offering all services remote. There's a lot of conversation about how are we going to present to classes like we normally would throughout the fall, because Elon is committed to in-person instruction still to this point. That's all I really have so far. Not a ton is concrete.
Are you going to be all in person? Are you going to have a hybrid kind of approach with the classes? Have they decided that yet?
My understanding is we are in person, I think 100%. I don't know.
Wow.
Beyond that, I teach a first year seminar, which is 15 students. And my understanding is I will be teaching that in person if space permits. But that is all I have so far.
I love that, if space permits, because that's the problem with everything. I mean, if you have a classroom that holds 60 people and only, 20 can be in there, or 15? I mean, how's that going to work? Are they going to have 24 hours a day?
I have no clue. Also, within our office, with our interview rooms, for example, since of course we want to keep supporting our students that are getting interviews, hopefully, I don't even know if we will be allowing students to use our interview rooms, which would be safe, but I don't know if we've made a decision on that yet. But that's another thing that we all need to be thinking about if you have that type of space available.
Yeah, we have some great interview rooms, but then you run into the sanitizing. Who's going to sanitize after a student comes in there and uses all the equipment and the space? And somebody's got to man the desk. And then they're also saying now that they might have to use those interview rooms for staff offices, because we have one big student engagement suite in the business school for all coaches and support staff, and they meet with students out in the living room and, kind of in these other enclave rooms that is not going to allow for 6 feet. So we may have to give up our interview rooms for that. So I don't know. I'm just glad that all that is above my pay grade, and I don't have to figure it out.
Well, I can speak to the engineering school at Duke, and Monique's on the call, and I'm pretty sure I know exactly what the answer is for them too, but we're very worried about optics. So they're actually working through that right now, but our space does not, over in the engineering school, does not work. We have 4 or 5 people sometimes in an office, so they're larger offices. So there are some things being talked about, like maybe we will put 2 people out in the lobby and tape off these areas where students can come if they want to see us. But as far as I know, that might be manned by 2 people, and we split shifts. So every couple of weeks you may have to go in once. But they're thinking the students aren't really going to want to do one-on-one appointments, and they're doing Skype now. So they're still working out the kinks. Again, thankfully, way higher than me, and I'm so excited about that. But right now it's looking like if it happens, it'll be very minimal, and it will not be in the actual office. It will be out in a big foyer, depending on where you're from.
Yeah, Sue, thanks for that update. So that's Duke Pratt School of Engineering, but as far as I've been informed, for the Duke Career Center, the main Career Center, we are doing everything virtual. So all advising appointments, all recruiting events, that could be interviews, info sessions, obviously our career fairs as well. All of that will be virtual. Our team, for the most part, will be working virtually as well. I think there's like a lot of paperwork that we would have to complete and everything we would have to go through each day in order to even say that we're coming into the office. And then our students, Beth, I believe you mentioned this as well, where your students could use your space for interviews. And our students would traditionally use our space even if they wanted to do virtual interviews, but we're now at least listing on our website that that's not going to be an option for students. They'll have to find another space. And there are other spaces on campus, like the libraries and so forth, for them to have virtual interviews. We're also encouraging our employers not to require students to travel for second round interviews. We do have like what we call a Duke Compact, where we're asking students to stay on campus all the way until the semester ends after Thanksgiving.
And Lori, part of that, what Monique was just saying, that it is so complicated to go to work now. First of all, yeah, you have to fill out all this paperwork to enter the building. Because I know when I get back, I want my monitor because I am sick of working off a laptop. But I have so much to fill out. So say you do go into work, you fill out all the paperwork, you go to work. If you walk into the kitchen, there are things you need to do when you leave the kitchen. You know, there's just every time you use a space, there's so much that has to be done at the beginning of the day, when you walk out of it during the day, when you leave for the day. So it gets so complicated to be actually on campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And whoever used the word optics, I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about, you know, Wake students who are paying private school education money, big money. And then they come and then everything's closed down. Like, why are they even there? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what really happens.
Yeah, and I'll say at UNCW, that was our big concern is we normally have a pretty big lobby area where students can wait for appointments. We have our express hours where students can drop in. So we're talking about either taping off furniture or actually physically removing furniture, just to not encourage anyone sitting or kind of waiting. But for the most part, we are going to do a telework schedule when we ever do return, where half the team would be in, half the team would be home. And I believe, don't quote me on this because I feel like it keeps changing, but I believe we're encouraging virtual. But if a student really does want to come in, they can sit and meet with a counselor. But I think they both have to have masks. I think both masks are required for both parties. And then there just have to be a little wipe down and all of that.
I can chime in from NC State, and just from my little small piece of the pie in electrical and computer engineering. I had my first employer conversation, and they have worked around their team. It's Intel. They have a China operation. They've learned how to work around it so they can travel. And you know, one of the things that he said in his conversation with me, because we were talking about his key schools, and you know, one of them is UCF. And I was like, well, I don't really want you coming to NC State at all, actually, in person, because I want you to come here first before you go to all those other campuses on which you're going to pick up COVID and then bring it to NC State. So, I mean, the employers themselves are, you know, he's going to get off a plane and he sits in Arizona. I was like, no, friend, you need to talk to my people online. You know, I mean, we just can't, I mean, the liability is like, and I understand paying big money. 80% of my students are international, paying full ride tuition, you know, big premium tuition dollars. I mean, not Wake Forest big, but big enough, you know, to get jobs. So anyway, but yeah, our department had put the kibosh on that because he wanted to, you know, could you come manage a line, and I need a room and I can only get 10 people in there, and nope. So there's just so many things about that. So, it's painful to tell employer partners pretty key ones that, you know, no, you can't do this, but yeah.
That's interesting. We've not had anybody ask. Most of our employers have already said, we are not going to travel. Like, they don't want to be near us, near a bunch of 20-year-olds. Are you kidding?
Wait a minute. I've had two calls this morning that have been different angles. One employer told me that she's actually in North Carolina. Her company's elsewhere. Her company has told them they can't travel by plane or train, but if they have a car, they can't carpool with their colleague, but they can drive to a college campus if it's open to do recruiting. And I'm like, that ain't gonna work anyway. We're not gonna open our doors. The second employer said, okay, we're gonna be virtual, but we still want you to go ahead and get a room big enough so that all the students come to one room to watch the virtual session. And I'm like, no, you need to give me the link and they'll watch it wherever they are. I'm not bringing them together in a room. And I was like, duh.
Can you imagine the contract tracing and COVID testing on that one? Oh.
Not me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about what Meredith has been doing. In regards to the fall, I think there are a lot of unknowns. 2 weeks ago, our team started migrating back on campus. We are a small team, so there are 5 of us. So we each basically have a day of the week, and one of us is there on our day. And it's pretty sparse. I think the other departments that operate in the suite where I work are doing the same thing, so it's pretty minimal. I teach a career planning class in the fall, and I elected to put that online. We are, as a campus at this point, operating on a hybrid model, so there will be in-person classes, there will be online classes, there will be asynchronous online, there will be synchronous online. It's just a big mix, it sounds like. All of our employer events will be virtual. We decided that a while back, so I don't know. I mean, as of right now, even on the days that I go to campus, I still meet with students virtually. So we're not seeing anyone in person at this time. I don't know at this point how long that plan is going to continue, but that's kind of where we are right now. And same conversations that many of you all have mentioned, the optics piece and all of those. It's, important for us to be available. So it'll be interesting to see what's decided.
Yeah, UNC Charlotte is going to be doing hybrid instruction, which means some classes are part in person, some are online, some are totally online. They haven't completely worked the formula out yet, or if they haven't told all of us what it is yet. We will be rotating back in the office on a rotational schedule starting in mid-August, but all of our events are virtual and all that kind of stuff. Same with info sessions and meetups and all that. We do have in our interview rooms, we have enough space to be able to do social distancing interviews if employers want to. Don't know how many of them have taken us up on that just yet. And we've got like a whole cleaning protocol and people in the office handling that with us as we do those things. And really what we're trying to do with employers and interviews is let them know we can still do the whole manage the schedule or whatever, and then you conduct the interviews via the virtual platform you want to. And so if the students need to use the space, we can still have it for them, but I don't know how many of them are really going to take us up on it, to be honest with you. Our students seem to be more cautious. As far as appointments go, there's options for virtual, phone, or in person because our coaches all have screens and things in their offices to be able to maintain distance if they're comfortable with it, and if the student's comfortable with it. And I think they're still trying to figure out what our drop-in situation is going to look like. If those are going to be all virtual, or are we actually going to let people in the office, how many people at once, and all that. So some of that formula is still being determined, but we know we can't have more than 10 people in a space at one time, which sometimes staff, that would be all of us. So, with the rotation. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet. But as far as events and everything go, it's all virtual.
I just threw this in the chat, but just something that came to mind. I don't know if this actually came out of our office, but a few weeks ago during staff meeting, one of our team members shared there are some new Elon virtual backgrounds, and I think those will be good for us to share with our students for if they are having interviews. So if we're saying to them, you cannot use our space, here are some backgrounds we encourage you to use, because if you're in your residence hall, we still want you to look professional. Just gonna throw that out there.
That's a good point. And we do have some wake backgrounds, but in my setting, I can't use them because I become this big blurry blob of, something, like, see that, how pretty that is? That's not going to work at all. So, students are going to have the same issues. It's going to be challenging, but yeah.
Yeah, how many of them have a solid background and not disco lights or something? We actually, the joke is we actually had a student who did a video for us to try to go on a trek, and we asked him to do a video, and when he presented the video, there were literally disco lights in the background.
The key word was he, and the lights looked like his girlfriend's apartment. It was a little, yeah. See, Sarah, you look good.
And see, this is the concert background we did for a going away party.
That's good. I like that.
They can be a mess, and they can be very distracting, depending.
Yeah, I can't find the one I had when I hosted a virtual cabaret a few weeks ago, but it was this big red stage, but my coat would disappear into pieces of it. So yeah, those are a nightmare.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Sarah, do you have a green screen, or is that just working with a blank wall?
No, this is just a photo off of the NC State website that I pulled to make a background with.
Yeah.
Now, if I really go crazy, I can disappear into it. I think if I like reach way back into it, but it's way back here, So this one just happens to work pretty well. So
Yeah.
I had to test out a whole bunch to find one that worked.
Yeah, I don't have any luck with this red room, which hopefully will not stay red for much longer, but I can't do anything with this. So yeah, I was going to ask what your secret was, because I haven't got
it's just a picture. No, I'm in just a regular old room. So yeah. Beth, look like you're sitting outside. Is it hot?
Yeah, I'm sweating. I don't know if you can see how sweaty I am, but I hope not.
You're brave. It's hot.
It's hot. But I just love being outside, so I suck it up for like an hour at a time.
So y'all, as we're at the the 3/4 hour mark here, we wanted to talk about continuing these calls, how often we wanted to do them through the fall, etc. So what are your thoughts? 2 weeks, once a month? What's good for everyone, not really knowing how differently busy we're all going to be, but knowing we need to kind of decide something.
I think when fall gets started, once a month seems right. Now, maybe for the month of August, as we're still trying to figure out what the heck is going to happen, maybe we do 2 in August, but maybe once a month starting in September.
I like that idea too.
So 2 in August would be, if we just rotate to the 2-week rotation again, would be August the 3rd and then August the 17th. And then from there, we could go to once a month if that still works for everyone. That sound good? Doable?
When we meet monthly, do you think we need to meet longer than an hour, or do you think we'd have enough time to, because I'm assuming people will probably want to give updates of the events they've had and questions about ones that are upcoming. So I wonder if we start to use that hour up.
That's an excellent question. But who could spare more than an hour is the other thing. So
yeah, we can do that. And then if we run out of time, we can add more, but that's, yeah.
We do like that show on ESPN where you got 30 seconds, the timer's going down. You got so many seconds to share. We can get it all in.
There we go. Hopefully we're not yelling at each other the way Wilbon and his partners do, but yeah.
I'm also wondering if we should maybe work through September with 2 meetings in the month of September to see how things are going for everybody after we end up, getting our feet wet with this.
I'm fine with that. We can always cancel it if nobody has time or if too many people decline.
I think that sounds good.
Emily, can we use the same link again, or do you have to set up another one for us?
I did not make it reoccurring, so I'll probably just make a meeting for the next one, and I might not even add a password because I'm kind of.
I would just say not.
Yeah.
I think we can all trust that we'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, I read somewhere that passwords were to start being required, so I started adding them to everything, and nobody else has heard that, so I must have made it up. But yeah,
yeah, I use Zoom for stuff all the time too, and I hadn't read that. When you heard that, I started looking for it, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I thought, okay, maybe that's like a campus thing for them, because I can see that. But
yeah, I'll make some new ones, and that way we can just do without the password.
So I tell you what, just talking through that, if we do the every other week like we've talked about, that would be August the 3rd, August the 17th, then August 31st would technically be the first one in September, and then the next one would be September the 14th. So do we want to just stick with those 4, and if you can make 4 for us, we'll do it that way?
That works for
Does that
me.
work for everybody?
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Cool. Well, we'll do that. Emily, when you send me those, I'll update the calendar links and send them out to everybody.
Wait, I wasn't listening. Was one of those Labor Day or no?
No, we're skipping over Labor Day.
Got it.
Even though UNC Charlotte, we will be working Labor Day.
Elon is open to. How is this? I wonder about this all the time. I take it off every year because I have stuff, but what? How is this even legal?
They
Isn't
added
there like some line from Star Wars will make it legal? I don't know. Yeah.
NC State added a day to our winter break to make up for Labor Day, making us work Labor Day. So
I think I've mentioned before, but our final exam schedule at UNC Charlotte runs through December the 23rd. So
crazy.
That's so late.
Yeah, we're all manner of ridiculous right now.
We normally have one fall break day in mid-October for staff. And the students are still getting one fall break day, but they're putting it on a Wednesday. And then our staff fall break day is no longer being honored, but we are allowed to use those 8 hours of personal leave either on that day that we could have used that was scheduled, or on election day, or on December 31st.
Yeah, we have that because we are working Labor Day. They gave us that's a floating like free day off. Basically, you have to take before the end of the semester, so everybody has like 8 hours of leave that they can, use because they worked on Labor Day. But I mean, yeah. So.
Well, I have a quick question for you guys, because I hear different things up here because I'm not in North Carolina at the moment, but I'm starting to read things like, not sure if we're going back now, not for Duke, but I've seen some stuff from UNC saying, can we do this with the outbreak getting worse and it being so many young people? Is anybody else hearing this, or are their schools starting to reconsider? Or is it just me not getting my news firsthand?
Well, Sue, I think that's just general rhetoric around all the schools. Forsyth County Public Schools just announced that the first 9 weeks are going to be virtual.
Oh, wow. My granddaughter's going back on a B schedule. She's going to school Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But as soon as it was announced, the numbers went through the roof. Right. So we're trying to figure out, is she going back to school? Are they going to cancel this? I guess it's just, we'll call it fluid. How's that? It's fluid.
I was going to say, I've definitely heard more of that conversation. Like, it hasn't been announced anywhere on campus, but just the conversation in North Carolina has felt like that. And my biggest concern is that we'll try going back on campus and then we'll just have to leave. I feel like could be a real possibility as well.
Well, I think the graduate schools are going to do that anyway, because we need to have the students on their classes. The international students, sorry, didn't mean grad students, but the international students are going to have a class in person. And once they start, if it goes virtual, then it's all fine. So.
Well, actually, I think ICE rescinded that whole thing now, and they're not going to hold people to that because of the response they got from.
So I knew that, Jay.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, but no, we were all having the same conversations, but then they backed off of that.
Totally.
Once they realized how ridiculous that ruling was.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. I am sitting outside like Beth, and it's warm. I'll blame that. I'm sorry. Back to sleep.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order for the day, everyone?
It was good seeing everybody.
Good seeing everybody. Y'all stay safe.
You too.
We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.